A motion by Helmut.
Welcome to Minutes by Minute. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kennedy.
And we're here to talk about what goes on in the village, the township. You know, those government entities that make laws and regulations that affect you out there.
That's right. Whether you live in the village of Leonard, the village of Oxford, Oxford Township, or Addison Township, these are the people that you went and elected. And there are committees and commissions that make decisions that directly affect you, whether you chose to go to that important meeting or not. And the result can be a taxing
Situation.
That's right.
And we do other things here. For example, we search in every meeting to determine if there's humor, and there usually is.
Yes.
And it bubbles to the top or sinks to the bottom, whichever.
And as always, I prefer the cream.
And you drag it out
That's
if it's
right.
on the bottom. So it does work. The other thing, too, is that this segment that we have for Minutes by Minute is an abbreviated version, what he calls a Reader's Digest version.
That's correct.
Yep.
Copyrights not included.
Yeah, because the meeting can go on and on and on and on, right?
And on and on. Isn't that a Shakespeare thing? And on and on.
And on and on.
Anyhow, if you choose to really see the entire meeting, which could go for 1,
Days,
2,
hours.
possibly 3 hours.
Yeah.
We have a facility. It's called our website, and you can get to it by
Goody.
going to occtv.org. Click on programs, and everything is in reverse date order. It even has a drop-down menu, so you can focus in on just that subject matter that you want to look at. Get your potato chips and your beverages, lay back in the chair, because you're going to be there for a while.
Yes, you could be, very much so. And let me see, one of us spreads rumors. I'm not saying exactly who. So pay close attention.
I spread them thinly, but you thicken up the brew.
A good thick brew is really what we're fishing for, right? Okay.
Right.
Well, let's talk about a couple meetings that occurred just the other day. One is the Oxford Village Council meeting, which occurred on December 10th, and the other we're going to try to cover is the Oxford Township Board of Trustees meeting, which occurred just last evening at December 11th.
Aha.
Okay, both are very interesting, I think. The Oxford Village Council meeting, Joe Frost, of course, is the chairperson, president, and Dave Bailey serves on this board, but he was absent in this particular case. Helmuth serves on the board, Maureen. Logan serves on the board, and she was late for this particular meeting, but she did show later on.
How many can go? How many can be missing and still have a quorum?
You can have 2 missing.
Okay.
Yep.
There were 2.
You still got the majority because there's only 5
Okay.
on the board. Terry Onika, who is the clerk, she served as the documenting secretary.
Okay.
Okay.
You need that.
Yes, they do, and just keep a record of it. And Joe Madur, who's the village manager, as he always attends, was there as well. And one other person who always attends is the attorney, Bob Davis.
Keeps them on the straight and narrow.
You got to keep it lawful. And he's got all the answers, and he needed quite a few answers.
It may
in
be
this
awful,
particular-
but it could still be lawful.
I started to say he had an extra amount of energy in this particular meeting because he had to answer from one of the people out in the audience a number of questions. So they went through the preliminaries, which is the pledge, of course, and the agenda for December 10th was approved, which this particular meeting. And presentations was the annual audit report, which is always interesting. How is the village doing in terms of finances?
That's right. They bring an auditor in, and he makes a report.
Right.
And this is it.
This is it. Now, this particular guy, his name is James Frent, and he gave the presentation, and he said some high points were that there's $1.7 million in terms of assets that the village has.
Cash?
You
Or-
could, yeah.
or properties
It's
or
property
what?
values.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And general fund has $664,000.
Oh, okay.
So that answers your question, right?
Well, that's right. I jumped in too early, didn't I?
You did.
You weren't speaking fast
I'd
enough.
see the big splash as you landed. Okay, that being said, he pointed out that as far as assets, if you're in the over 2-point series, that is a healthy situation.
Oh.
And so they actually came in at
If it's over what?
2 million.
Oh, but it's
Yeah.
more, of a
1.7.
more of a percentage
Right.
kind of a thing.
Yeah, it's 1.7 million
Okay.
is what the assets value up to. And if it was 2 million, it'd be a perfect situation. So it's a little less than perfect, but it's still healthy, for the village and compared to previous years. So
They've had their moments.
Yes, they did. And they constantly have their moments. If they could only assess a value on chickens, I mean, if they're going to have chickens. If they're going to have chickens in the village, I mean, you could send them a tax statement, hey, chicken, you owe us this. This is what you're going to owe us next year.
Check with me later on feathering my nest.
Right. And all you folks that want a chicken, you'll be seeing these tax assessments. Okay. Anyhow, I'm not sure that'll work out. I'm sure there will be, as you say, pitchforks and fire showing up if that occurs. Right?
Depends on the chicken.
Depends on the chicken. Well, no roosters, so they can't defend themselves as well. Of course,
or multiply and be
I don't know.
fruitful.
Is that politically correct? That probably is. They could probably defend themselves pretty well. We got some pretty mean chickens out there.
Yeah, they tend to lose.
Yeah, they do. Okay, public hearing was the next thing, and the subject was residential rental registration and inspection. Remember, they covered this about 3 years ago, and the village council at that time declined to go forward with it because there are state regulations,
Right.
which should be enforced, are not being enforced even today. Because people will complain they don't have the resources in the village to cover every situation that occurs in terms of infringement. As somebody is, let's say, let me see, my next door neighbor has 16 junk cars out in front of his place. Yesterday he had none. What are you going to do about it?
So who would be the, don't they have an ordinance? Is that in violation of an ordinance?
It could be in violation of ordinance, and there's violations in terms of rentals. If you're renting an apartment, for example, under state regulations and fire laws. Mm-hmm. So, there are laws out there already that can, pretty much control what's going on here in a lot of cases. It's just that we don't have the resources to take care of it.
On the other hand, the state relies on the local municipality to do it.
Yes, they do.
Even though they made the regulation.
Yes. And Pete Schultz, who's the fire chief, gets very frustrated over this because, he goes into
Let's
place.
get those state regulators in.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he has
Maybe
to
no
go,
one would like that.
He has to go in to save somebody's life, and going upstairs that maybe there's only 2 steps for the stairway to get up to wherever he's got to go. And once he gets up there, electricity is provided by extension cords, and 1,500 of them connected into one circuit. So
Yeah, God knows how many old sets of wiring are up in those attics.
yes, and some of these old buildings, of course, that's what they are, knob and tube.
Knob and tube.
Knob and tube, and a lot of it should be changed over.
Yeah, I've seen bare wires and insulators.
Yes, not to mention the circuit boxes. I mean, they have fuses yet, that you screw in instead of circuit breakers.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And a lot of them are
And God
really,
forbid they don't put pennies in there when they go out.
Yeah, right, that's true. And they probably do that, by the way.
Pennies aren't what they used to be, by the way.
And it sounds like voice of experience speaking here. And we'll bring his voice of experience forward just after this.
At
folks.
another time.
Welcome back to Minutes by Minute. I'm Elgin Nichols, and I'm talking to Dave Kenny here, who's driving me crazy. Okay, right, crazy guy. All right, we're going to talk about the Oxford Village Council, continue with it. Public hearings, residential rental registration. The number of people stood up. One was Mark Young. And Mark said that he had a number of questions addressed to the attorney. And he put the attorney right on the grid. And if you folks want to see this, go to occtv.org and click on
Programs.
Yep. And then search out this particular meeting, and you'll see how hot, how interesting this conversation got.
What was the central subject?
Well, you shall see if you just tune in. Okay? Anyhow, I don't want to elaborate
That's
on it
as
any
brief
further.
as it
but,
gets,
yeah.
folks.
So the attorney really earned his, I was going to say this bud is for you, but we already talked about marijuana the other evening.
Oh, good Lord, we dipped that one in
yeah.
and wrung it out a billion times.
Right. Debbie Young stood up and she said locations of all rental have to be listed according to what they're going to do here as far as the new ordinance. Record keeping, how are you going to maintain the records on all these people moving in and out and around? So that was her concern. These are questions that this board needs to work with, or this council. There's privacy issues, according to Chuck Snyder, who stood up and who's always quite outspoken and I think very logical in the way he presents the case.
Privacy issues.
Yeah, privacy. What's going to stop an individual from coming into your home to inspect when you least expect it? Least expect? Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So anyhow, he was concerned about that privacy issue. Violations are not currently enforced, you know. You can go to regular homes that are, you know, got all kinds of problems because nobody maintains their home. These particular don't maintain, you know, electrical and so forth within their facility or within their home. And so he says, you know, you're looking at rentals, but what about the other people? What about them?
Yeah, what
You know,
about them?
Yeah, how come they're not checked out?
You mean the owners?
Yeah, the owners.
Owners of
Their own property.
Right.
And there's also an exemption for relatives. For example, if a son moves in from college.
Of course, you
know,
could always have a randomized cycle of inspections, and everyone would know when they're going to get inspected.
Well, they don't have enough people to be able to do
I
that.
didn't say it had to take place in a month.
Well, that's what they're saying, is that they could offset, you know, these inspections
Sure.
down the line. And
Commensurate
actually,
with their manpower.
yeah, Mr. Maduro said that that would be a proper way of doing it. But anyhow, there's a number of issues that are going to have to be covered if this is enacted, and it looks as though it will, because this was a first reading and they did approve the first reading. A lot of renters or owners of property that do rental right now showed up, and the room was pretty well packed, you know, with people. They had all kinds of questions and concerns. So they went on from that, and the fire chief said the main issue is safety. And he said it is a serious issue. He does not want his EMTs going into these hostile environments, you know, to try to save somebody's life.
True, yeah.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
they have to go up, you know, take someone down on a stretcher, on a decrepit stairway or something like that. Yeah,
Yes.
that could be very dangerous.
And he explained that occasion did happen once. So he said he wants to stop that if at all possible. Now, 3 years ago, they did turn this thing down. They didn't want to go forward with it. I was on the council at that time. And that's because we felt that the state laws were adequate enough to be able to handle it.
Well, the state law, but the state law is not enforced.
No.
And they expect the municipality to do it.
Well, they didn't have the resources to be able to issue citations and get it corrected then. They
the
won't
state,
now.
or they, the
We.
us.
The community, yeah, we the people. So if they don't have the resources, what are they going to do? They're going to raise the
Taxes.
taxes, yes, those guys. And that,
Another tough pill to swallow.
yeah, and that issue did come up, by the way. So they said, well, I don't know, we're going to have to look at all the processes that we can have here and move on.
But they should have some, at least a vestige that they're doing their job. It may be only 10 places a month or a year, for that matter, as long as the process is ongoing. And,
Well,
you know, in 40 years, you will have gotten them all.
Yes. Well, Chuck Snyder, he did voice up in the fact that he has a number of properties in this area. But he said, as far as rentals, and he said he has other properties that he could develop, but he's not going to do that because the community government, meaning the village, is non-inducive, you know, in support. Because they just have all these little regulations and things that you have to do and hoops to jump through in order to be able to do this. And he said, you go to other communities, they don't have that. He said, and every situation he has seems to be a hostile confrontation, you know, with planners and so forth. So he said he will not be doing any more development here, is his concern.
So it's more expensive to build or to have a business here than it would be in another community. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, he's saying, yeah. Plus he says he can't take the aggravation that he has, you know, every time he wants to try to do something. And I think there are certain regulations and controls that you have to have in place. And I think they have improved too, through the village over the last few years, because we've had an effort to do that.
Well, you keep talking about the state regulations. Does the county, for its authority, have its own regulations that it impose on the municipalities?
Well, they do, like the health department, and that's part of the regulations that we were talking about that are in place now. Not only state, but also county regulations.
Okay.
And all they have to do, and not all they have to do, but they have to provide resource to be able to govern it, locally. And they don't seem to have the manpower to do that at this point. So that question is going to be an ongoing question.
And as always,
It's got to have an
the
answer.
government demands prolific documentation.
Oh, sure. So it takes people to do that as well.
Right.
And they're looking for everybody to register that have a rental inside their home, for example.
Oh, okay.
The name on it, and then they can
A
make
lot of that is
arrangements.
very informal.
Yeah, it is. And the question is based on honesty too. Are you really going to report, that you have rentals? Let them catch up to you first.
Actual income?
Yeah, actual income. Yeah, they probably won't, provide that information as well. So anyway, there's all kinds of
He's
gray
a
areas
relative
here.
and he's just visiting.
Yeah, and a lot of people that are really promoting, pushing this thing, I think really have no experience that these rental landlords have, so they're running this thing to make sure that this ordinance gets in place. They don't understand all the ramifications involved here. They want to keep these businesses going, and they certainly
seem like the first-
safety is a major concern.
Well, it would seem like the first thing that they need to do is to distribute maybe like a checklist
Yeah.
to all of these renters or whatever, and see how compliant, by their own evaluation they are. They may make some improvements themselves.
Right. And are they going to
They're
be?
probably ignorant of half of them.
Well, the good landlords, they're going to provide that information. The bad ones, what do you think they're going to do? Yeah, and that'll be their response too, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so it looks like the first reading went through on this, and so they're going to move on with it. So you folks pay attention to this as it goes on. Consent agenda, correspondence, everything was received and filed. Minutes for November 12th, and bills for $226,552.60 were approved within the let me see, monthly budget report and budget amendments also were approved. Unfinished business, ordinance 413, consumers franchise ordinance, was also approved. And we'll be back right after this.
We'll be back.
Welcome back to Minutes by Minute. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And we are talking about the Oxford Village Council. And one more thing I have to say, and there were some board commissioner appointments. For example, Planning Commission, they reappointed Gary Douglas, who is doing a great job as the chairman of that board, Planning Commission. ZBA, Sue Bassardit was appointed, and Dave Gerber were appointed to 3-year terms.
When you say appointed, or do you mean reappointed?
Well, yeah, they were reappointed.
Okay.
Yeah, because they served as a fill-in. for
So
other
no
people.
newbies.
No, well, half newbie. Both of them are half newbies because they weren't appointed originally with a 3-year contract agreement. They had to fill the remaining terms of
they were
other people on the
appointed,
board.
and now they're
Yeah, now they're
in.
for 3 years at least. Okay, they had the ball and chain. They hooked to their leg. So no, they were all set.
Teach them to raise their hand.
They don't meet that often, so shouldn't be a problem. Also, they appointed
But good citizens.
Yeah, they appointed the Beautification Commission as well. Lynn Ulster, I believe her name is, Oyster, and Jan Burr and Lois Ludwig. That pretty much rounds it out. So that being said, we're going to go on to the Oxford Township Board of Trustees meeting, which just occurred last night. Bill Dunn is the chairperson and, of course, the supervisor of the township. Curtis Wright, clerk. Joe Ferrari is the treasurer. Jack Curtis serves on this board. Margie Payne, Patty Durr, Elgin Nichols, and Kelly Richter was serving as the recording secretary at that time. They did the pledge, all the preliminaries out of the way. Are you bearing with me?
I'm bearing with you.
Okay. Consent agenda, the minutes for November 20th were approved. Treasurer's report was approved for October 2019. Clerk and summary report, October 2019. Regular bills through December 6, 2019. Consultant bills also, there's a lot of bills involved with this thing. December 6, 2019. Quarterly review and expenditure report. You know about those.
Yep.
For 2019 fiscal year to date. Okay, those are all approved under the consent agenda. Public comment. Okay, here we go. Spokesman for the House of Providence, I believe he was an attorney, and he...
That's, which is that? Is that the one where the Oakland County Sportsman Club was?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, shooting.
Well,
club.
yeah,
Yeah.
they did that too.
A lot of banging going on. Bang, 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 shoot, duck, or quail, whatever they had over there.
And the cry was heard throughout the land.
Porcupines.
Pull!
Right. Or run.
Well.
Okay. So anyway, he pointed out that the property that was originally purchased was split into 4 sections. A grant to replace contaminated oil, contaminated soil, close as oil soil.
AKA lead.
Yeah, that's not lead. Anyway, so he pointed that out. Oxford originally was going to become an administrator to move this forward. We decided no, that wasn't a good thing because there's liabilities involved with the township if we were to take on that responsibility. So they went on to get Oakland County to agree that they would be the administrator if the township would send a letter saying that would be okay with us to do that.
For them to remediate it.
For them to go ahead and handle it as the administrator and to remediate, right.
Now, who would absorb the cost for this remediation?
The cost will have to be under the grant if the grant is approved. Now, if they go ahead and they do the soil switch, getting the bad stuff out and getting the good stuff in, then it would be the responsibility of Providence to take care of it as far as the expenditure. But, we'll have to see what happens. Now, they knew that they had this problem when coming into it when they purchased the property, so that's a major concern there. And grant will help, state grant, and it's being encouraged by the state to do this.
Is this grant already filled out and everything?
I have no idea the progress of it because we're no longer
Or is that just
the administrator.
It's a proposal?
Right.
Okay.
And I think we dodged a bullet in being the administrator. Your board has done a good job in keeping an eye on this stuff. So, okay, Kelly Rossner is another one who keeps a good eye on this stuff. And she's concerned with House Bill 4095, which will change such operations as Providence from 6 to 10 residents. So, and rather concerned about that for the licensing. And wanted to bring that to the attention, gave all the information to the clerk. So if you folks want to learn more about this.
Is that just 6 to 10 in a unit or 6 to 10 in the whole operation?
It'll change from 6 to 10. In other words, maximum was 6 people you could have,
In a unit or?
In a home, yeah.
In a home.
Yep, and they're going to put, I understand, 4 homes.
Well, that's what I was thinking,
For different
yeah.
property.
Right.
So that's quite a combination of people.
Okay,
And plus
that
there's-
multiplies out of it.
Yeah, plus in each home, you're looking at roughly 13 to 16 employees operational.
Not so much a home as sort of a central, they probably have a central service facility there too.
And it doesn't show it in the site plan. So,
Well, if it's in groups like that, they sometimes do. Okay.
yeah, but I didn't see it, so it could be. Maybe they haven't provided that same information yet.
For efficiency, I
Yeah,
guess. I
could
don't
be
know.
down the line because there's only one home there at this time.
Okay.
Okay, 2020 census taking, April 2020. It's going to occur. Frank Sraka is the representative that spoke about this. And if you want to be a census taker, you can apply online at 2020 census, census.gov/jobs. And the jobs available pay between $15 and $20 per hour. And it's part-time.
What would be the separating thing from 15 to 20?
I have no idea. I haven't seen the job descriptions that are out there, but I imagine little more responsibility, I would think, than just going door to
Maybe
door.
administrative.
Could be.
Yeah.
And again, that website or email address is 2020census.gov/jobs. So check it out.
So when does this begin?
This begins in April 2020. That's when it's going to begin. But you can start checking it out right now. And if you're interested, make a few bucks on the side, or if you're retired, it'd be a
Every
great
10
job.
years, they do a reset.
Yeah, they do. Okay, Fire Department, Pete Schultz, he spoke, and he said that the Christmas thing for children at Myers has been finished, and kids had great time. He said it was really enlightening to see little 5-, 6-year-olds, go from place to place who never had an opportunity to pick out their own presents.
First time I ever saw that, I said, "Oh my gosh, what happened at Myers?"
Yeah.
They had fire trucks and everything out there.
Oh, yeah.
And then you'd go in and you'd see these firemen accompanying kids around.
Yes,
was a good
he
thing.
said you get a kick out of it. But and what supplies the funding for that is the boot collections that they do. And he said this year they had a lot of recipients that provided funds, for this. So he said he wanted to say thank you to the community.
They're still shaking him out of
Yep.
those boots.
Sharp Engineer, he did talk about M24 update, and get ready, folks. Not going to get better. It's going to continue to get worse.
Have you been on 24 lately?
And you see it now. They're going to switch lanes coming up.
Oh.
And so,
Oh.
and that's going to happen within the next 2 weeks. So get prepared.
Yeah, it was backed up all the way to Salvation Army, I think.
Yep, and that was a subject. Everybody said, boo. Anyway, it's got to get worse before it gets better. It will get much better. We feel that's going to be the case.
Right.
With that, what do you got coming up, bud?
Nothing.
Nothing.
What I got up?
It's the
Let's see.
holidays.
Wait a minute. I got, have yourself a merry little Christmas. That's what I
it?
have. There's nothing going on that week.
Well, I can say that too. Merry Christmas to all you folks out there, and thanks for watching Minutes by Minute. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny. Happy holidays.
Yes, catch you next time, folks.
Hi, my name is W. Ripto. I'm a member of the Addison Township Fire Department. I'm a lieutenant here. I've been here for 13 years. Today, we're going to talk about address signs and having your driveway properly marked and making sure that when there's an emergency, we're going to get there quickly and safely to help you with your emergency. In some situations, you may have to mark both your mailbox and your driveway. In situations where your driveway is across the street from your mailbox, or if you have a shared driveway where multiple houses are on your driveway, or if your driveway splits off into 2 or 3 areas. Wherever it splits, you might want to have an address sign marking what side to go on, whether it's left or right or straight or however you need to do it. It's going to make our job a lot easier to get to you. We highly suggest that you mark both sides of your address so that whenever we're coming from the north or the south or the east or the west, we can see that driveway on both sides. In our ambulances, we have our map books. And in our map books, we have very detailed oriented pictures showing exactly where the addresses are. But having that marked, your address sign marked or your driveway marked, will definitely ease us in finding your address in that state of emergency. Okay. In the map book, we have all of our hydrants marked, we have all of our streets marked, and it makes it a lot easier for us to find. So that's typically the officer's job, sitting in the officer seat. He grabs the map book and verifies with the driver exactly where we're going. And we have also a blown up section showing real quick and easy how to find your address on one sheet of paper. Instead of flipping through the book, we can go through your section and find exactly where we need to go. Okay, the address signs are $15 a piece. You can call the station at 248-628-5600 and request to have one filled out, or you can come to the station and have one filled out yourself. They're $15 a piece again, and it's definitely a good thing to have for your driveway and for us if we ever need to get there.